Welcome to the Audacious Empires podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Woff, business integrator and founder of Audacious Empires. Each week, my crew and I will be exploring all things building and scaling an extraordinary business. This podcast is here to share how multi-six and seven-figure entrepreneurs can step out of daily business operations and slide into being CEOs, expanding your reach and increasing your impact. Learn how to build your team the right way, create smart systems, and get the support you need to keep growing. It's time to get out of the doing and become the thought leader and world-class empire builder that you are. Hey, crew. Today, I want to talk to you about why your attempt to outsource to a VA or an OBM have failed and what you can do about it. I'm an OBM. I have a very determined nature. That's who I am. I'm determined, I'm driven, I'm dedicated. I am the person that finds a solution for the impossible problems. And when I hear people say OBMs don't work for me, VAs don't work for me, I've tried it so many times and it never works out, that's never going to be an option. Cue cringe factor. It kills my insides a little bit because I flip into that. You've got a problem and I bet I can solve it. Show me your challenge. And I believe that it's not that it can't work for you, it's that you don't want it to work for you. And either you don't want to work for you because you don't fully understand what the problem was to be able to solve it, or you don't want to change anything to get the result. And I was sitting in a masterclass the other day, and the presenter was saying, I really recommend that you get help. And yeah, that might be a VA, or it might be a expert in that field, or it might be, and they listed off different things. And then they said, but in my experience, that's never worked for me. I don't think that worked. And I was just sitting in there going, I wish I knew the backstory, because I would find it really interesting because I can't see a way where it wouldn't work. And so my question, if you have worked with a few different OBM or people in the virtual assistant industry for different things, you've tried to outsource. My question for you today is to think about, why did you want to expand your team in the first place? What was it that was driving that decision? And you might come up with things like, I was out of capacity, I needed a job done and I didn't have the skill, I wanted to achieve bigger results, I wanted to focus my energy somewhere else. There's lots of different reasons you might choose to expand your team. And then I would love to know why it didn't work. Why did you think it didn't work? And something that I want to say is that delegation is a long-term game. It is not a quick fix. So if you find that you're out of capacity right now, you have zero time, bringing in somebody is going to give you relief. It is not going to give you relief tomorrow. It is not a magic wand. It's not a silver bullet. There is work that goes with it, like everything else. Every time we do something new, there's a set of processes that we have to follow to give the new thing the foundation it needs to thrive. And with that being said, I want to dig into some main reasons why outsourcing may not have worked for you before and what you can do about that. And so I've broken it into 3 core areas. I believe that there are 3 core ingredients to outsourcing well, especially if you're trying to diagnose why it hasn't worked well before. The first is you. The second is them, the person you're bringing in. And the third is what you want to achieve, the result that you're looking for. So let's go through each of these. If outsourcing hasn't worked for you, something that you might have come across and possibly not realized is that there's some mindset issues. Maybe you have some mindset issues. What you believe delegation looks like could be a little bit skew-if. Maybe you didn't know what to expect. Maybe you were told, yep, I've got no time. I just need to get in more people. I get in more people. My problem is solved. The second that you do that, those people need you. And you're a little bit gobsmacked. That's the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. And I can understand why you would be doing that. But it's in contradiction to giving yourself more capacity. And so the longer that you hold on to that control and the more of that control that you hold on to, the harder it is to delegate and create leverage. That's just the reality. And so if you have this conflict inside you where you want to be able to scale, you want to be able to expand what you're doing, but you can't let go of the control, you're constantly going to have this war inside. And you're not going to see the result because we're not focused on an outcome here. We're a little bit mixed up. And so maybe that's something that needs to be resolved. You need to find a way to do it where you feel confident. Or maybe you have some hesitation in really letting people, in trusting people and being able to share the full picture of something with someone. And again, maybe you don't know how. Maybe you don't know what people need from you. Or maybe you feel like people don't need that much information. And again, if someone is coming to you and saying, I need to understand where we're going here, I need to understand why we're doing this, there is a reason that they're saying that, and giving them the full picture, giving them context is like gold. And when we're looking at that ingredients, I don't believe it's because you're a bad person, because you're not smart enough, or any of that. Likelihood is no one's actually laid out that process for you, or there are some things that have come up that you didn't even know were things. Sometimes we don't realize how hard it is to hand things over until we start doing it. But the only way to get better at it is to keep practicing, to keep doing it. And if you're thinking this might be you, my suggestion is that you go back and you think about the way that you worked when you tried to delegate. What did you put in place? What was the other person saying? What were your frustrations? And were some of the things potentially your mindset? And you might go, no, actually, my mindset was golden. Like I can't relate to any of these. And that's fine. They might not be there, but they also might be. And it's okay to look at that. If you want to be able to still grow your team and to scale, an OBM can work for you. And working through some of the mindset blocks is only going to help you. But if it's what else, other things that we can look at? I want to say the them factor. So that's number 2, the person that you were outsourcing to. And the biggest issue that comes here is a mismatch in personality. I think it's underestimated how important getting the right person is over getting any person. Someone who you can communicate easily with, somebody who gets it, and someone who you get. The personality matches are really important if you want this to work and you want it to work successfully. Because if you're already finding it hard to understand another person, or to say things the way they need it said, or to lay it out the way they need it said, or you feel like no matter what you do is the right thing, it's always going to be hard. But it's probably not you, and it's probably not them. Maybe that person is ideal for someone else. They're just not your person. And you need to find someone who's got the personality that works well for what you need, that can help drive in the way you think you need things driven. So I want to give you an example of this. I was working with someone in my organized, optimized operations coaching. And we were looking at the different elements that you need to have streamlined operations. So if you want systemized, streamlined, bottleneckless operations, there's core things that come into play here. There's 9 of them. And we were looking at these different things. And each time we would come to a new thing, and my client would say to me, I tried this and it just doesn't work. I've tried this and it just doesn't work. Or I started it and then stopped. And a big piece of this was the support that they had. And there became a consistent pattern where this client would say to me, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it keeps happening. And I try and solve it in all different ways, but I don't know how to fix it because nothing that I do is actually working. And I believe that it has to work. There has to be a way to do this, but I need someone to tell me what it is or if I'm the issue here. And so after working with this client for a while, I said to them, the issue here wasn't you and it wasn't them. You're very good at what you do. They were very good at what they do. But the personality, the way that you work and you operate, that's what the issue was. The people that you were working with let you lead. And that is not always a bad thing. But my client was explaining, hey, this is what I'm thinking, or this is where I want to head. to try and give context. And then what they would find is that the team of people would just go and do those things or some kind of version of those things. But there was no ownership there. There was no ownership of these people coming back and going, okay, if you want to achieve this, I get where we're going now. And if you want to achieve that result, here's how I think we should go about it. These are our options. This is what I would do. How do you feel about that? And coming up with a plan that they could then run with. And part of this was the people they were working with, I believe, were a little bit starstruck. They admired this client and they saw the expertise that they had, so they didn't want to share their opinion. They didn't want to undermine any of that confidence and thought, if this person is saying it, that must be the way. But from my client's perspective, she was just trying to give them something. She was trying to help. And that dynamic was never going to work because she needed a stronger personality, possibly somebody who had more self-awareness and more confidence to be able to go, yep, I can see it. I know what you're doing. And here's what I think. And not take on feedback as being negative. So being able to have a conversation and go, this is how I think we should do it. And there's 3 different ways. Pick one. And not being offended if somebody comes back to you and says, oh, I don't like those 2, but this one could work. And when we're working with personalities that don't have that inner strength yet, maybe they're working on it. Sometimes you don't get the support that you need. Or maybe just the way that they communicate and the way that you need them to communicate, or the way you communicate and the way they need you to communicate are a mismatch. And so you find these clashes and you can end up in this position where it's a matter of standing there and going, why doesn't this ever work for me? Like, these are good people and I think I'm a good person. So maybe this just doesn't work for me. But no, it actually just has to do with that combination. Now that client has awesome support and it works. So it's proof that if you work through some of these things, you'll find what you need to make it work and to activate it so you can get better results and have the support you need to do it. And then the final thing is what you want to achieve. The result. And that could be a mismatch of skill. I'm talking about tangible skills. I'm also talking about the ability to set those goals. If we have unrealistic goals from the start, then it doesn't matter who we put in that role, we're not going to achieve them. And sometimes we set goals because we don't know what other goal to set. So we pick somewhere and we start there. And if we don't have someone who's really experienced in the role that you put them in, they're not going to be able to tell you if that goal is valid or not. So your guess or your best guess might be totally crazy. And without context, you're never going to know that. But to get the context, you need someone with experience and skill. Or maybe you've got something that you want to achieve. You've set out and you have a specific goal you want to achieve, and you've come up with an idea of how you can achieve that. So you've gone and found a person, but maybe that wasn't the right way to go about it. Maybe to achieve that goal, you actually needed a different kind of skill, a different expert, a different consultant, a different team member so that you can get that. And so if it's not worked for you before, maybe it is that what you're trying to achieve doesn't really match with the person or the skill that you're trying to achieve it with. And you'll only uncover that by talking to more people, by saying, hey, this is what I want to achieve. How would you go about it? Or who is it that I need? And then you might find that everyone who you speak to says that's just not something that can be done in that way. You need to change the way you're doing it. Try this approach. Then you can actually get somewhere. Or maybe it's you need to have conversations with people, and then those people need to say to you, I'm actually not the right person. This is the kind of person that you need. This is the kind of skill that you need. And then once you switch that gear and you get that right kind of person, then it will work. So I hope that this has given you a little bit of a new way to think about it. If you are of the belief that no matter what you do, VA, OBM, outsourcing is not for you because it doesn't work, I hope that there has been enough conversation here and something that has given you some food for thought before just writing it off. If it's something that you want to explore. If you don't want to, that's totally cool. That's so fine. But this is for people who do want to or thought it would be a possibility and then now are of the belief that it just mustn't be for them and they can't work out why. If you're still stuck and you cannot work out why it doesn't work for you, DM me at Audacious Empires. I want to talk to you. I want to help you. Otherwise, enjoy your thinking. Please, if this has helped you at all, go leave me a 5-star review on whatever player you're listening to so that I know and so that other people can find this podcast. I'll speak to you next week. Bye, guys. Loving the Audacious Empires podcast? Drop into our DMs at Audacious Empires and say hi. We'd love to get to know you better. If you're finding these episodes useful, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for tuning in. You are why we're here.